I didn't discover my partner's past. All at once, I didn't discover my partner's past all at once. There was no confession, no dramatic breakdown, no moment where everything suddenly made sense and clicked into place. It came apart slowly, in pauses that lasted a second too long, in answers that sounded rehearsed, in the quiet feeling that the person beside me sometimes knew something I didn't, something important, something that shaped who they were when I wasn't looking. The worst part wasn't that my partner had a past. Everyone does. The worst part was realizing how carefully it had been kept away from me. When we met, my life felt settled. Not exciting, not empty, just stable. I had routines that didn't change much, a job that paid the bills, evenings that ended the same way most nights. I thought I had reached that adult phase where chaos had finally lost interest in me. My partner slipped into that life easily. Calm, attentive, emotionally present in a way that felt rare and reassuring. They listened when I spoke, remembered small details, made me feel chosen. They didn't talk much about who they used to be, but I didn't question it. I saw that silence as maturity, as someone who had already done the work of becoming themselves. I don't like living in the past, they once told me. What matters is who I am now. At the time, I admired that. Now I hear it differently. The first doubt was small enough that I almost laughed it off. A name mentioned once and never again. A visible shift in their expression, subtle but unmistakable. When I asked, they explained it away smoothly, without defensiveness, without irritation. Almost too smoothly. I didn't push. I told myself that trust meant not interrogating someone you love. That curiosity, when taken too far, can become suspicion. I wanted to be better than that. But small things have a way of adding weight when you carry them long enough. Old photos were strangely edited, faces cropped out, backgrounds blurred, memories without context. Stories from the past sounded vague, like summaries rather than lived experiences. Questions about previous relationships were answered carefully, like landmines disguised as nostalgia. I began listening not just to what was said, but to what was avoided. The first real truth reached me accidentally. A notification that appeared on their phone while they were in the other room. It wasn't explicit. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply incompatible with the version of the past I had been told. When I brought it up, they sighed, not angrily, not defensively, and explained. They minimized it, reframed it, placed it neatly into a category that sounded harmless enough, and I believed them. Or maybe I just wanted to. But something shifted inside me after that, a quiet unease I couldn't fully name. I started feeling like I was standing in a familiar room where the furniture had been moved slightly, enough to make me walk carefully, enough to make me doubt my footing. Then came the second crack, a comment from someone we both knew. A throwaway line that contradicted a story I'd heard before. When I asked about it later, my partner hesitated, just long enough for me to notice. That hesitation stayed with me. I stopped asking direct questions after that. Instead, I watched. I listened. I remembered details that weren't meant to connect. That's when I realized it wasn't one secret. It was a pattern. My partner wasn't lying outright. They were editing, curating, removing pieces that didn't fit the version of themselves they wanted me to love. Their past wasn't erased. It was selectively hidden. And the more I learned, the more I began questioning my own memories. I replayed moments from our relationship in my head. Conversations, promises, late-night talks where vulnerability felt mutual. I wondered how many of those moments had been influenced by a truth I wasn't allowed to see. I started asking myself questions that scared me. Was I chosen, or was I convenient? Was I loved, or was I safe? Did they fall for me, or did they build a new life because the old one had become unmanageable? The full truth didn't arrive as a single revelation. It assembled itself slowly, like a picture made from fragments I never asked to see. Past relationships that overlapped with the beginning of ours. Decisions that directly contradicted the values they claimed to live by. Entire chapters of their life where honesty had never been an option. When we finally talked, really talked, there was no denial. They told me they were afraid I wouldn't stay. That they wanted a clean start, that the past was over and they were a different person now. I believed that they had changed. What I couldn't accept was that the change had been built on silence. Because even if the past was gone, the deception lived inside our relationship. It had shaped it, protected it, controlled it. After that conversation, nothing exploded. That was the hardest part. There were no screaming matches, no dramatic ultimatums, just a slow, quiet collapse. Conversations became cautious. Physical closeness felt distant. I found myself measuring every word they said, wondering what else might be missing. I realized I no longer felt safe asking questions. And that realization hurt more than any truth they had hidden. I spent a long time reflecting on my own role in it, on the moments I ignored my instincts because I wanted stability more than clarity, on how easy it is to fall in love with the version of someone that feels simplest to hold. Maybe I didn't want the full truth either. Maybe I accepted the edited version because it made loving them easier. There was no cinematic ending, no single moment where one of us walked out and never looked back. We just became less real to each other. One day I noticed that silence had replaced intimacy. That trust, once cracked, doesn't always shatter. Sometimes it just slowly leaks out until there's nothing left to hold. When I finally left, there was no anger, no sense of victory, just a quiet grief for the relationship I thought I had. Because sometimes the deepest loss isn't betrayal, it's realizing that you loved someone you didn't fully know, and that by the time you finally did, it was already too late.